For decades, crews trusted the K4 Pacifics, engines so reliable that their behavior was second nature, until the duplex steam engine forced them to second-guess every instinct. Promised as the future of American rail power, the T and its siblings stumbled on the very rails meant to showcase progress, plagued by sudden wheel slip and mounting frustration. Why did radical innovation collapse just as the stakes were highest? And what was it about crew habits and split-second decisions that doomed one of railroading's boldest experiments? The answer begins with the quiet confidence of a trusted machine. Morning on the Pennsylvania Railroad began with the K Pacific ready at the platform, steam drifting quietly from its stack. For the men who ran these engines, every movement was a familiar routine. The throttle responded with a gentle surge. The drive rods moved in perfect rhythm, and the locomotive's weight pressed evenly onto the rails. Crews learned to read the CAFSO's signals, the slight tremor in the cab, the sound of steam through the cylinders, the feel of the wheels gripping steel. Each engineer developed an almost instinctive sense of how far to open the throttle for a smooth start, how to ease back for a gentle stop, and when to coax a little more speed from the engine without risking a slip. On long runs between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, these engines covered hundreds of miles day after day, often reaching 250,000 miles before their first major overhaul. Maintenance crews trusted the K4's simple, robust design. Repairs were straightforward, parts were interchangeable, and every shop along the line knew the engine's needs. The K4's reliability was not just a matter of engineering, it was the foundation of the railroad's daily rhythm. Schedules were built around its predictable performance. For decades, the K4 set the standard, its behavior so well understood that even a slight change in sound or vibration caught a seasoned engineer's attention. In this world, confidence came from repetition, and trust was built on the quiet certainty that the machine would do exactly what was asked every single time. In 1933, the Pennsylvania Railroad faced one of the harshest economic climates in its history. The Great Depression forced management to slash capital budgets, freezing most new locomotive orders and halting major upgrades across the system. Every dollar counted, and the company accountants scrutinized each line of the ledger. Instead of investing in further steam development, the Pennsylvania Railroad directed its limited funds toward electrification, an ambitious project that promised long-term savings on fuel, labor, and maintenance. By 1935, the first catenary wires were energized, and electric locomotives began gliding quietly beneath the new infrastructure. Maps from the period show the rapid westward expansion of electrified lines, each new mile representing a major diversion of capital away from traditional steam. Substations rose beside the tracks, their transformers humming night and day, while overhead wires stretched in geometric patterns above the rails. For the railroad's leadership, these choices were not just about technology, but survival. Electrification required massive upfront investment, steel, copper, and engineering labor, but promised lower costs and higher capacity in the crowded eastern corridors. As resources flowed into wires and substations, the steam fleet aged. Locomotive shops repaired worn K-Pacific locomotives with whatever parts were on hand, often delaying overhauls or reusing components past their prime. The pressure to do more with less grew relentless. In this environment, any proposal for a radically new steam design had to justify itself against the hard numbers of capital allocation. Yet the same financial strain that limited upgrades also created a hunger for innovation, a willingness among some in management and engineering to gamble on ideas that might restore the railroad's edge. The duplex concept would soon emerge from this crucible, shaped as much by economic necessity as by engineering ambition. In 1942, the Pennsylvania Railroad unveiled the T-1, an engine unlike anything crews had seen before. Its 4-4-4 four-wheel arrangement split power between two sets of cylinders, each driving its own pair of axles. The streamlined body, shaped by Raymond Loewy, gleamed with confidence and modernity. but the real drama was hidden in the mechanical heart. On the test runs out of Altoona, engineers advanced the throttle as they always had, expecting a steady surge. Instead, the T1's drivers spun violently, steel wheels shrieking against polished rail. Reports logged wheel slip at speeds where the old K4 would have gripped tight. The divided cylinders delivered force in two sharp pulses, but the front engine, lighter than the rear, often lost traction first. Shop records from the period confirm the problem. Incident logs noted 6 to 10 slip events per month, far above any other class in service. Crews tried to adapt, but habits built on decades of care operation betrayed them. A quick hand on the throttle, once a sign of skill, now triggered a sudden loss of control. Slow motion analysis of the T1's motion revealed the subtle cause. As the engineer opened the throttle, the front set of drivers could unload just enough to break contact, spinning rapidly while the rear set pushed forward. Even with the pneumatic sanders blasting grit onto the rails, adhesion slipped away in an instant. Maintenance teams scrambled to adjust spring rigging and add weight to the front engine, but the fundamental physics of divided power and uneven load persisted. For the first time, the men who could once predict every move of their locomotive faced a machine that seemed to defy instinct. The promise of speed and power was real, and so was the shock of discovering that the old rules no longer applied. Inside the Altoona shops, engineers pushed steam technology to its outer limits. Wartime demand had granted the Pennsylvania Railroad a rare exemption to keep building, and the result was a series of locomotives that dwarfed anything that came before. The first were the prototype T1s, 6110 and 6111, stripped of streamlining and built for pure function. Their presence on the shop floor signaled not just a new design, but a commitment to brute force and mechanical ambition. Then came the Q1, a 4644 design with its rear cylinders facing backward, a machine as unconventional as it was massive. Yet it was the Q2 that truly stunned the railroad world. With a 6446 wheel arrangement and over 1 million pounds in weight, the Q2 recorded nearly 8,000 horsepower during a static bed test at Altoona, the highest ever measured for a rigid frame locomotive. On paper, these engines promised to move mountains, yet every gain in power brought new challenges. The sheer complexity of their mechanics, split cylinders, intricate valve gear, and rigid frames demanded relentless attention from shop crews. For the engineers who built and maintained them, the duplexes offered a glimpse of steam's untapped potential, but also a daily reminder that raw power alone was never enough. Maintenance records from Altoona and Crestline told a clear story. The T1 required an average of 42 shop man-hours for every 1,000 miles it ran, nearly 3 times the figure logged by the Norfolk and Western J-Class, which typically needed just 13 to 16 man-hours. The Pennsylvania Railroad's own J1, a conventional 210-4, usually came in under 20. Overhaul costs followed the same pattern. For the T1, frequent attention to the front engine's running gear and the poppet valve system drove expenses upward, and the mean distance between failures hovered around 8,000 miles. By contrast, the J-Class routinely surpassed 20,000 miles between major shop visits. Archival test pages from 1948 Chesapeake and Ohio trials added further weight. When the T1 ran under controlled conditions, it performed well enough, but still demanded more maintenance and tighter oversight than its peers. Pressure traces from these tests, laid side by side, showed the J-Class holding steam evenly mile after mile, while the T1's traces spiked and dipped with each episode of wheel slip or mechanical adjustment. The numbers left little room for doubt. As post-war labor costs rose and shop resources thinned, the economic argument for the duplex grew weaker with every mile logged. The arrival of the first E7 diesel units in late 1945 changed the Pennsylvania Railroad's future overnight. These new locomotives rolled onto the property under contracts that spread payments over years with full maintenance guarantees from the builder, terms steam never offered. A single E7 cost less than a T1, yet promised lower operating cost and faster turnaround. Within months, the railroad placed dozens more orders, each batch delivered on schedule and ready for service with little shop time required. Diesels began pulling the flagship passenger trains, their reliability and economy impossible to ignore. The last T1 locomotives left the erecting shops just as management committed to full dieselization. There would be no more large-scale steam projects, yet the story did not end there. In 2019, volunteers with the PRR-T1 Trust laid the first frame for a new duplex, number 5550, using original blueprints and modern engineering. Every component is funded by donations, each milestone documented and shared. The 5550 project stands as a reminder that the duplex dream endures, even as the rails themselves have moved on. Today, as new steam projects like PRR 5550 rise from modern workshops, the duplex's unfinished story still challenges engineers and dreamers. Innovation rarely fails for lack of vision. It fails when the world changes faster than the machine. Progress demands risk, but history rewards those who learn from it.